Hello everyone, welcome back to our math lesson. So today we are going to proceed with our new subtopic, which is distance time graph. So please get ready with your notebook and also your graph paper. Alright, so for today's last learning objective is that you should be able to construct distance time graph and then solve the problems that related to the graph. So this is the step to success that you need to know. The first one, you have to highlight key information that is given. Second, you have to draw a graph with two axes. Third, you have to plot the points or the coordinates and connect them together. And lastly is that you have to solve the problems that is related to the graph. So let's start with distance time graph. So usually for distance time graph is a straight line graph, okay? So with distance on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, a distance time graph tells us how far someone or something has traveled and how long it took them or it to do so. The speed of an object can be found by calculating the gradient of the graph. So, in order for you to find or to calculate the speed of the object from the graph, you have to apply the gradient formula. The gradient formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, so how do you interpret distance time graph? So for example, we have this distance time graph. So how do we know each of this line meant? Alright, so let's say this red line. This red line is going up. So this red line is that to find the speed of the graph, then you have to find the gradient of this line. Alright, this blue line, it's a flat line, meaning that it has no speed or at stationary or at rest. Okay, if you look at this is a green line. So this green line is similar with this line. However, this line is much steeper. So the steeper the graph is, the faster the speed is. Alright, and lastly, this purple line is going down, meaning that you'll have a negative gradient. So if you have a negative gradient, it means that that person or that object returning to a starting point or coming back. Okay, so this is how you interpret distance time graph. Alright, so let's proceed to example number 1. A man took 2 hours to cycle 30 km from his home to visit a friend in Lumut. He stayed for 5 hours before returning home in 1.5 hours. By using a scale of 1 cm for 1 hour for the horizontal and 2 cm for 10 km for the vertical, draw a distance time graph for the man's journey. B. Calculate the man's speed in the first 2 hours, and lastly, calculate the man's speed on his return journey. So first, you have to highlight all the key information given. Next, you can draw the graph of a two axis. So in this case, we have kilometer against time. Okay, using the scale given. Okay, once you draw the graph, your graph should look like this. Okay, alright, so let's see the question B. Calculate the man's speed in the first 2 hours. So to find the speed of the man for the first 2 hours, you have to use the gradient. So gradient is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Once you calculate, you'll get your speed to be 15 km per hour. Alright, so the next one is calculate the man's speed on his return journey. So his return journey starting at here, at this point, to this point. Okay, So once you calculate, you'll get your speed to be 20 kilometer per hour. Okay? If you get the gradient to be negative, don't worry, it just meant that it indicates that this person is going back to his home or starting point. Alright? So if you don't get your answer or your to be like this, your graph to be like this, please double check again your working and also your graph. Okay, if you have any question, you can let me know. Alright? If you're okay with example 1, please proceed to example 2. A cyclist set out at 10 for a destination 50 km away. He cycled at a speed of 15 km per hour until 12 and then rested for half an hour. He then completed his journey at a speed of 20 km per hour. By using a scale of 1 cm to represent 1 hour, and then 1 cm to represent 10 km for the vertical, draw the distance time graph to represent the journey. And then the second question, use your graph to estimate the time at which the cyclist reached his destination. Okay, so you highlight the K formation first, alright, and then you can draw the graph. Okay, so I want you to complete this example 2 on your own first. Okay, once you complete with example 1, alright. If you complete it, then you can proceed to example 3. So for example 3, a cyclist started at 8 o'clock from A and traveled a distance of 27 km. He traveled at a constant speed of 12 km per hour for 1 hour, and then rested for half hour and continued at a speed of 15 km per hour. Then, a second cyclist left a place 30 km away from A at 8:30 and traveled towards A at a constant speed of 15 km per hour. On the same axis, draw the distance time graph of these two journeys and find when and where they pass each other, and then when each cyclist reaches his destination. Okay, remember you have to use this scale. Alright, remember there are two cyclists here. Okay, cycle 1 and also the second cyclist. Okay, please complete your example 3. If you have any question, you may ask me. Alright, so after you completed your example 3, I want you to start with your exercise on distance time graph. Alright, thank you very much everyone. See you next lesson.